Welcome back to yet another episode of Reincarnation reading and explanation. Oh, and I want to welcome back you viewers too. I'm sorry I was talking to the trees and the wildlife here. Alright, so in today's episode we will be going into talking about self-realization, and that being of the self. As a little bit of background knowledge, I have experience within the field of psychology. Not a great deal of experience, but enough to include that into today's episode. Within psychology, you have what is known as self-realization and self-actualization. But within that realm of psychology, it is in terms of the mind. And that is affixed to the body. But before we even get to that point, let's go back and review what this body is, what the spirit-soul connection to the mind-body is, and how it relates to so-called death. Because we should understand that it is not the person who has died, but the body. According to Vedic knowledge, the body is always dead. For example, a microphone is made of metal. When electric energy passes through the microphone, it responds by converting sound into electrical impulses, which are amplified and broadcast over loudspeakers. But when there is no electricity in the system, nothing happens. Whether the microphone is working or not, it remains nothing more than an assembly of metal, plastic, etc., etc. Similarly, the human body works because of the living force within. When this living force leaves the body, it is said that the body is dead. But actually, it is always dead. The living force is the important element. Its presence alone makes the body appear to be alive. But alive or dead, the physical body is nothing more than a collection of dead matter. The dead body is not the real subject for philosophical inquiry. Rather, we should concern ourselves with the active principle, that principle which makes the dead body move, known as the soul. Okay, now the soul is that battery for the organic vessel, otherwise known as the physical body. So, how do you become aware of this force which is not matter, but which makes matter appear alive? I can intellectually appreciate speaking of philosophy which contains reality. I don't doubt it. But how does a person feel it? It is a very simple matter. There is an active principle which makes the body move. When it is absent, the body no longer moves. So the real question is, what is that active principle? The inquiry lies at the heart of the Vedanta philosophy, whatever. With these Indian words, it's difficult for me to pronounce. Okay, so within this philosophy, there is a statement. What is the nature of the self within the body? Therefore, the student of the Vedic philosophy is first taught to distinguish the difference between a living body and a dead one. If he is unable to grasp this principle, we then ask him to reconsider or to consider the problem from the standpoint of logic. Anyone can see that the body is changing and moving because of the presence of the active principle, the soul. In the absence of the active principle, the body neither changes nor moves, so there must be something within the body that makes it move. It is not a very difficult concept. The body is always dead. So as an example, so if I ask someone to come here to me, they will come. Okay? But if the active principle leaves his body, I can call him for thousands of years, but he will never come. Isn't that simple to understand? But what exactly is this active principle? That is a separate subject matter, and the answer to that question is the real beginning of spiritual knowledge. So we have gone many episodes now, and just now getting into the aspects of the real spiritual knowledge. And you have to also understand the differences between the words of spirits, spiritualism, spirituality, anything that has that connotation of spirit. There's separations and differences. How do we become aware of the active principle within ourselves as a direct experience and not simply as an intellectual conclusion? On the inner path, isn't it important to actually experience deeper reality? You yourself are that principle, that active principle. The living body and the dead body are different. The only difference is the presence of the active principle. When it is not there, the body is called dead. So the real self is identical with the active principle. In the Vedas, we find the maximum soham. I am the active principle. It is also said, aham brahmasmi, forgive me. I am not this material body. I am Brahman, spirit. That is self-realization. The self-realized person is described that when one is self-realized, he neither hankers nor laments. He is equal to everyone, men, animals, all living beings. So if someone might say, well, I am spirit, but not able to really experience it, is that a reality? No. Because how can one not experience it? One knows that they are the active principle. Everyone ultimately knows that they are not the body. Even a child knows it. We can observe this by examining the way we speak. We say, this is my finger. We never say, I finger. So what is that I? This is self-realization. I am not this body. And this realization can be extended to other living beings. Why does man kill animals? Why give trouble to others? One who is self-realized can see, here is another self. He simply has a different body, but the same active principle that exists within my body is operating within his body. The self-realized person sees all living entities with equal vision, knowing the active principle, the self, is present not only in human beings, but within the bodies of animals, birds, fish, insects, trees, and plants as well. And that is also demigods. Once again, that is something that will yet be explored, is the factor of what a demigod is, beyond just another level of ascension throughout the evolution of the self. The active principle is the soul, and the soul transmigrates from one body to another at the time of death. The body may be different, but the self remains the same. We can observe this change of body even within our own lifetime. We have transmigrated from babyhood to childhood, from childhood to youth, and from youth to adulthood. Yet all the while, the conscious self or soul has remained the same. Okay, now, right there, there's a difference, because they are saying soul, but now they are going to spirit, the consciousness. Okay, and the spirit is to the mind as the soul is to the body. See, I have evolved the older teachings of reincarnation to make it that much more understandable in today's terminologies and meanings, and so on and so forth, okay? So the body is material and the actual self is spiritual. When one comes to this understanding, he is called self-realized. Okay, so continuing on. People need okay, well, let's go back here real quick. In the East, there has always been philosophers who have known experiences by which death loses its terrifying character and becomes the threshold to a more complete life. People need this experience of overcoming their usual bodily habits, and if they can break through that bodily experience, they suddenly realize that quite a different principle is operating within themselves. They become aware of the inner life. A devotee of Lord Krishna automatically realizes that different principle because he never thinks, I am this body. He thinks, I am spirit, soul. The first instruction given from Lord Krishna to the student Arjuna is this: my dear Arjuna, you are very seriously considering the condition of the body, but a learned man does not take this material body, either dead or alive, very seriously. This is the first realization on the path of spiritual progress. Everyone in this world is very much concerned with the body, and when it is alive, they take care of it in so many ways. When it is dead, they erect grand statues and monuments all over it. This is body consciousness. But no one understands that active principle which gives the body beauty and life. And at the time of death, no one knows where the real self, the active principle, has gone. That is complete ignorance. If one is a God-realized soul, he is not afraid of anything. The process of self-realization is a sequence of inner experiences. Okay, so the body is like a dream. We can experience that every night. When we dream, our body lies on the bed, but we go somewhere else. In this way, we all experience that our real identity is separate from the body. When we dream, we forget the body lying on the bed. We act in different bodies and in different locations. Similarly, during the day, we forget our dream bodies in which we travel to so many places. Perhaps in our dream bodies, we flew in the sky. Yes, I know that feeling very, very well back when I was 6 years old. At night, we forget our waking body, and in the daytime, we forget our dream body. But our conscious self, the soul, still exists, and we remain aware of our existence in both bodies. Therefore, we must conclude that we are not of any of these bodies. For some time, we exist in a certain body, then at death, we forget it. So the body is really only a mental structure, somewhat like a dream. But the self is different from all of these mental structures. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the spirit soul is even higher than the intelligence. Pure consciousness. The spirit does not need a material body. For instance, when you dream, you forget your present body, but you still remain conscious. The spirit, the consciousness, is like water. Water is pure, but as soon as it falls from the sky and touches the ground, it becomes muddy. That's not the case anymore, is it? But we'll leave that at that. Similarly, we are spirit souls. We are pure, but as soon as we leave the spiritual world and come in contact with these material bodies, our consciousness becomes covered. The consciousness remains pure, but now it is covered by mud, this body. And this is why people are fighting. They are wrongly identifying with the body, thinking, well, I am German, I am English, I am black, I am white, I am this, I am that. So many bodily designations. These bodily designations are impurities. This is why artists sculpt or paint nude figures. In France, for example, they regard nakedness as pure art. Similarly, when you understand the nakedness or true condition of the spirit soul, without these bodily designations, that, my friends, is purity. You don't need some outside source to come into you to make you white as snow. You're already there and you don't know it. That is self-realization, my friends. Everyone knows I am not this body. It is not difficult. You can experience it. It is only because of the foolishness that people think differently. But everyone really knows I am not this body. This is very easy to experience. I am existing. I understand that I have existed in a baby's body. I have existed in a child's body, and also in a boy's body. I have existed in so many bodies, and now I am in an old man's body. Or, for example, say you have now put on a black coat. In a moment, you may put on a white coat. But you are not that black or white coat. You have simply changed coats. If I call you Mr. Black Coat, that is my foolishness. Similarly, in my lifetime, I have not changed bodies many times, but I am not any of these bodies. This is real knowledge. And yet, isn't there difficulty? For instance, you may have already intellectually understood very well that you are not the body, but you may still have the fear of death. Doesn't that mean you didn't understand it by experience? As soon as you understood by experience, you should have no fear of death, because you know that you cannot really die. Experience is received from a higher authority, from someone who has higher knowledge. Instead of my trying to experience for years and years that I am not this body, I can take the knowledge from God or Krishna, the perfect source. Then I have experienced my deathlessness by hearing from a bona fide authority. That is perfect. In order to get first-class experience of the perfection of life, you must approach a guru. Now, I am not a guru. I am loosely a mentor. I am not really a teacher. I'm just sharing my experiences and observations. But I have become self-realized in both spirit, mind, soul, and body. And I would ask you to think about what we have covered today and to connect with your real self. Become self-realized. In a way, regardless of how real everything feels, just like the reading implied, we are living in a type of a dream. And we'll wake up after we pass from this organic vessel. But it never stops, and it continues on. And you have to be responsible for your inner self, more so than the responsibilities that you carry for your outer self or this physical life. So on that note, my friends, please take care. Take care of your spirit soul. And help others to understand how to care for theirs. We will continue on with more as time progresses on.